those of you know me, for those of you that don't, I'm Tim Rinehart. I started turning, it'll be 3 years ago in March, and one of the first things that I know I was always challenged with was trying to find some wood to turn with. Now, I don't have that problem now. However, for a lot of people, that's still a consideration. And the other thing is that a lot of times, even if you've got access to wood, maybe you don't have access to a bandsaw for prepping larger blanks and things like that. And what we're going to talk about tonight is taking just some really kind of gnarly looking, not really perfect looking blanks and doing something with them that's kind of neat. I like it. I mean, a lot of times if I've got nothing else I'm working on, it's just kind of fun to take a piece of wood like this and turn it into something like that. Okay? These are all turned basically the same way you would any kind of natural edge bowl with the same kind of precautions. So a lot of this is going to be just kind of basic bowl turning type of stuff. Along the way, I mean, if I can think of something that's different about these little things, we'll stop and talk about it. The biggest thing is that you just got to be slow because you're working a lot of interrupted cuts, and as this piece is going around, you've just got to just take it easy. All right. So again, if this is a piece of dogwood, and this piece here, this is actually the fork coming out this way. If you look, well, you can look in here, you can see the pith there and there. Okay, so this was a crotch section. Same way with this was a piece of apple, kind of similar. And this would be like your traditional kind of natural edge thing. And the one thing with these now, in fact, there was a demo just, I guess it was just last month at Charlotte, right? On the natural edge, or was it Concord? Concord. Yeah. And one of the things that I heard that I never really paid attention to, which is probably why this one looks the way it does, is that it's really not balanced. And that balance, and you can see it more down. Well, you can see it here as well. To truly balance a natural edge piece, you really need to get the pith running right down through the center there. And I didn't do it on this, but you know what? It's a natural edge piece. Who cares? But you'll hear people talk about balance, and that's what it is.
We knew you were unbalanced.
Well, I lean one way, sometimes I lean the other. So as far as getting these things mounted up in the lathe, there's a couple different approaches you can use. This was a piece of crotch that I just went ahead and cut this face off of it. And you might have a piece of wood like this, and you can mount a blank onto it, or you can do the same thing I'm going to do with this one here and just drill a little Forstner bit hole, which I think is a good safe way to get your spur center, your spur drive, into a centered area and then not be as likely to fly out. Okay, that little recess there, not only does it get rid of the bark, which is real soft and just gets chewed up, but it gives you a little bit of extra insurance that the piece is going to stay on the lathe. So, for those of you in the front row, you're really going to appreciate that.
And don't move.
So, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing just in there. And you can kind of mess around, trying to get everything perfect one way or the other. I'm going to get it in a pretty good position, and what we're going to do is cut a tenon on this side here. All right, this is going to be the bottom of my bowl. I'm going to sweep it up this way, create the tenon, create this bottom edge here, then we'll reverse it around and do the inside. Okay?
Tim, where you drilled your hole, is that, did you kind of center it between the...
I eyeballed it.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, and it's a combination between eyeball and, you can, maybe you want to accentuate maybe the lift of this. Let's say, let me take this back out here a second. That's a good point. If for example, I wanted these to be kind of standing up a little bit more proud to the surface, I might orient it so that it's tilted more like that. Okay? So, you've got some flexibility. This will be fairly uniform for one of these pieces. Any questions so far? No? Okay. It's pretty easy stuff. Really just take these little bites in the beginning. Can't get very aggressive because you'll just either throw the piece out or you'll get it spinning on that spur drive. Most of the time when you use the spur drives or safety drives, if the piece is moving on you in there, it's usually because your tools just aren't sharp enough, or you're just getting too aggressive. So, let's just see real quick what that's starting to do. All right, so we've started cutting away a little bit up here, just barely a little bit there. All right, we'll go ahead and move this up a little bit. Well, I'll tell you what, I couldn't have planned that much better with the clearance there. And this is, now this is as slow as this goes. This is 450 RPMs. Slower you can go, the better. The other thing is about any kind of natural edge piece is that even if the piece is really balanced, if you go too fast, you start throwing your bark off. And the bark is a nice part of these types of poles. Any questions so far? Everything good? Good. Well, this one's got lots of little bug holes. I'm just kind of roughing out some of the bottom right now. Now I can decide to go ahead and turn it up and do something deep like that. And if I want to, I mean, I really need to make that decision now and really just start sweeping it up. The other way to approach it is to do something that's spread out a little bit more. And you can see I've got a little bit of a, kind of like a quasi-platter shape going on. And if you're going to do that, you know, put in a little bit of an OG. You know, like that. Let me think. I really haven't decided how I want to do this.
Aren't you a little bit dependent on where the bark is on the stock side?
To some degree. Now, if I want to go ahead and have bark all along, like this one, then I do need to bring it all the way up and sweep it up. But if I just want it kind of like a platter style, there's nothing wrong with having this as my outside edges of part of the bowl.
Where is the center of the bowl? Where are you going to hollow?
Right here, right here,
Okay.
in the front, where the spindle is. So let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and make this a bowl and bring my natural edges all the way up. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, we're almost up on this side. All right.
Kim, what kind of tool are you using?
This is it's a D-way bowl gouge. It's a bowl gouge. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you use a bigger roughing gouge?
Never use a roughing.
Yeah, roughing the big roughing gouges you only want to use on spindle work because they don't have an appropriate tang there to counteract the forces that could tend to basically break the tool in half if you got a bad catch. Because when you start working on a bowl, the amount of torque that you get here on the outside is just too great of a force for a spindle gouge to handle with that little bit of a tang it's got.
So just use a bowl gouge.
Use a bowl gouge, yeah. Bowl gouge is just a much beefier tool. And really, I don't want to use anything right now on this. That's going to take away too much material. I want to have nice little pieces of material I'm taking away, because otherwise I'll basically tear out that area where the spur drive is.
You ride the valve on that.
Yep.
You're not getting beat up with that chop, so explain a little bit about that gravel ride.
That's right. Yeah, see, like right now, I mean, even with the big spin, the roughing gouge, I mean, you can ride the bevel on it and so forth, but you've got just a much smaller surface there that is going to be approached. So it just allows a lot less material to be taken away in a controlled fashion. Say again?
You always go on the side of the cow, right in the middle of it?
Most of the time, yeah. Most of the time, I mean, coming into it like this, I can't think of a lot of situations where I would be like that. I'm usually tilted one way or the other, but now, you know, if I wanted to do some shear scraping, I mean, I would do it like this. Does that show up? Mm-hmm. You know, and then, you know, maybe I'd do like, and I might do that just to help refine the shape. Okay, right now what I'm doing, I'm trying to creep up on this surface right here. Okay, these are already pretty well roughed out, so I don't need to worry about what's there. Right now my goal is to basically rough the shape out until I just start cutting away the flat right here. Okay, and that way what we'll have is we'll have this bark all along the top rim of the bowl. So, questions?
Piece that you got that mounted to, what did you call that? Piece that goes into the head there?
The spur drive.
Spur drive.
Mm-hmm. Just got a couple little like barbed things on. I don't know what you call it.
A wooden mount. Like the stuff I got doesn't have one of those in it, but it's got the screw in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You could do a screw chuck. That's fine. The only thing with a screw chuck is that for them to work best, typically you've got to have a pretty good flat surface prepped on the face here. Now you could do that with maybe a 2-inch Forstner bit or something. But this allows you to just take a very small, like a 3/4 or a 1-inch Forstner bit, and just dress a small area to engage it. But most of the screw drives, to do it best, you really should have a good flat surface if it's mounted inside of a chuck. That's the type you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The type where it sits down here on the inside. But you just got to make sure you've got flat area to bear against here. That's not to say that I haven't taken and just jammed a piece of wood up against the face of a chuck. And if I'm going to do that, you can do it, and honestly, I don't think it's that unsafe. What I will tell you, if you're going to do something like that, is open your jaws up all the way. And let's say I didn't have this there. I would actually prefer probably using this rounded side. I would just jam that up tight like that. I'd bring my live center up here, and I would just take very easy cuts until I've got a tenon. Okay. Sorry. Does that make sense? I mean, that's just a jam chuck concept that works in a lot of different ways.
Have you ever used a 2-spur drive?
Oh no, I haven't. I've seen them. Do you have one?
I don't.
Have you used one?
I've used it, yeah.
Does it one way that's got it, or is it?
It's really slick.
Yeah.
You can go in cross grain. And it, something like this, it will hold a lot better than forward.
I use one, it's particularly good if the end isn't square. In other words, if
right.
for some reason the end
like these.
Work, yeah, well, I don't get into too much of this stuff, I'm the furniture guy, so it's usually a spindle or something something like that, but if I've got to cut something at an angle for some reason ahead of time, I can use that 2-spur drive on it, and it'll catch it well enough that it'll drive it.
Huh.
But you gotta be particularly careful.
Okay, you can split it real easy. Just like a cake.
There'll be more.
Yeah.
Probably ought to start making sure that I've got a tenon down here. Let's see what I gotta do here. Okay. I'll tell you what, for being about a year and a half season, it's not too bad. I think this is apple also.
Yeah, recently cut out though, right? The limbs, the rest of the limbs and stuff are cut out. There's no crack.
Yeah, I mean the wood has been, you know, it was actually cut down closer to a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I just prepped this particular piece last week, but still pretty well seasoned. Now I'm going to go ahead and just try and get a little bit of an OG shape. I got some more to take a look. tiny bit. Far away, I can feel the tool pulling down on me. Just tiniest little bit. What I do, I've pretty much got the rough shape that I wanted, okay? A lot of these little hairs out here, easiest just to take a razor to those. The one thing I do want to do is to get as good of a surface out here as I can, because I don't want to have to sand this a lot, because the more you sand natural edge pieces, the more problems you run into losing some of that crisp edge around the bark. So. Now typically when you're doing a shear scrape, you want to turn up the speed, but you know, as long as you're taking fairly slow cuts, you don't have to have all that much speed. Just make sure you got a sharp tool. That's pretty good. I mean, I got a little bit of tear out right up here. Let me see if I can get that. Okay, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Let me just refine that bottom a little bit. Now I'm going to end up turning away most of this tenon. In fact, that's kind of big. It's a lot bigger than I need it to be. That thing's got lots of little bug holes, doesn't it? Alright, one last thing I need to do before we take it out. I just need to get a really good crisp edge right down here where the chuck is going to seat, because that'll help make sure that I've got a good bearing surface. Because that little flat area right there is really the key to your chuck holding on good or holding on not so good. Okay, I don't think that's too big for that. That should be about right. Right. Some people have these fancy ways of kind of figuring some of this stuff out. I'm just going to go ahead and make it a little bit smaller. Don't ask me how many times I've done this and realized that that chuck was, that the tenon was just a little bit too big. More time than I care. Okay. Any questions so far? Because we're about ready to turn it around.
Question, Tim.
Yes.
Go around one more lobe.
Uh-huh.
One more. That one right up.
Oh, right up there?
Yeah. I was
You know
curious
what?
why you haven't finished the cut.
I just noticed that right. I didn't notice that earlier. Let me get that before I do part it off. Thank you. How's that? Better? Thank you. Thank you. It's demo pressure that made me,
Is that it?
Ed says there's still a bug crawling around on it too. You got green eyes.
It's a female bug.
I'll say the hogging inside part of a natural edge bowl is not that much different than a regular bowl, except you've got an interrupted cut. But the second thing is you've got bark, and you want to. The hardest thing to do is to keep that crisp definition right here at the very outside, where that bark line is. And what I'm going to show you when you're doing that is you just got to creep up on it, and you're going to be wanting to do this in a push cut mode, because if you do it in a pull cut, you'll just tear that right off, or you'll leave it frayed. So we're going to be doing, when we get ready to do the very final cut, we're going to be doing a push cut. Okay, so we're going to be like this. All right. If I was doing it like that, I could do that with other bowls, but not a natural edge. Okay, so that's the most important part of this process. Now we're pretty well balanced. I'm going to go ahead and move the speed up just a little bit. Probably go up to 850. Woo, we're humming. taking like little 1/16 of an inch cuts at a time. This is not the time to be getting in a hurry with big cuts. Now the other thing, if this were green, it would be a lot. This would be a lot more important. This is a fairly dry piece, so I can get away with not having to worry about, you know, for example, it's starting to warp on me and move as it's drying. If this were a green piece, as soon as I got, let's say, a half of an inch or 3/4 of an inch cut down on this particular area to my final thickness, I would not want to come back to it, because with green wood, you've got to be concerned that it's going to start moving on you. It's not going to be the case with this, but still, what we're going to do is, you know, we're going to go in here and take away like 3/4 inch deep sections at a time before we start taking away more of the interior. As long as I keep that interior there solid, I've got strength in these walls. But anyway, just like with other walls. Up on that. 3/16, so that's probably a good final thickness right there. Okay? Does everything make sense so far about the whole idea with the push and so forth? So we've got good definition as far as my thickness. It's looking nice. Looking good. Starting to get to be a little bit more overhang than what's easy to control. I'll make my cuts wider to make up for that. Okay. Now I've got a little bit, you see this here, I've got a little bit of a ridge right there, and I'm going to see if I can't get rid of some of that before I go much deeper. And again, I've got the benefit of this being pretty dry, so I can get away with it. But if it were green, I might think twice.
Yeah. Explain a little bit about how you're sounding where that wood edge is so you can start your gun.
Well, I'm looking at my ghost, and I'm looking down at the whole thickness of the piece, because I'm literally using my eye as my thickness gauge. But what I'm doing is that the sounding part is I'm just very, very slowly bringing that tool up to that ghost pattern until I just start hearing it click right there. You hear that? And I'm also watching to make sure that I'm riding the bevel completely, because what I want to make sure of is that I'm not approaching it with the heel open. I want to make sure I'm just absolutely riding that bevel coming into it. So I can see that little ridge. I can see the little ridge that's in there, and I should be able to just walk right up on it and take it away by listening to where it just starts hitting. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. No, I don't like that right there. Now this, right now I'm using the bowl gouge as a scraper essentially, but just ever so lightly trying to kiss that area. Especially when you've got all these interrupted cuts, it's just real easy to get ever so too much aggressive and basically blow the piece up. So, okay, that's pretty smooth now. Yeah, that's good. All right, so now I can go ahead and continue on in. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and reposition this. How are we doing time-wise?
You good?
Great. I'll reposition this a little bit to get myself a little bit better approach angle.
You want to take a break then, or?
I'm okay. I can continue on a little bit more. Is I'm now at that point where my eye cannot see around the back of the piece. So literally, as I'm cutting, I'm getting it started, and then I'm looking around here to see if my thickness is following around. You'll notice each time I do this, I'm always kind of coming back and making sure that I'm cleaning up any little ridge that's left from my last cut. And hopefully then that'll help reduce some of the coarse sanding. thickness-wise, it's coming pretty good. I'm actually getting pretty close to probably where the bottom needs to be on this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning up the bottom. I'm going to switch to a different. This is a the grind on this is a little bit easier for getting down. Is that good?
Good.
All right. It's a little bit easier for getting down into the transition area down here as well as the bottom of the bowl. I've had mixed results sometimes with this. Sometimes it can be a little grabby on me. It might be something with how I've got it cut. So if somebody here knows of something that I don't have sharpened very good on this, I'd be more than welcome to hear about it. Now, last little bit in there, easier just to use a scraper. Still feels pretty thick. Okay, it's got a nice gentle curve down there to the bottom. Thickness-wise, feels pretty good. I've got a little bit of a hump right in here I need to clean up, and then we should be ready to turn it around. Now, we got to get rid of the ugly tenon. Where's the vacuum chuck?
We missed parts of it.
Oh, that's right. We're missing some pieces to that, aren't we? Okay. So here's what we'll do. All right. Again, one of the probably purest ways of chucking things like this is just to do what's called a jam chuck. And a host of different ways of doing it. I brought this. I didn't know if this would be the right size or not. That's not bad. Okay, here's a waste block I had. Sorry. Here's a waste block I had. And what I did is before I came here tonight, I just rounded it off a little bit. Okay? What I'll do is I'll use that to bear against the inside, and then we'll turn away and refine the end of this and leave a little bit of a nub to take off with a chisel or a knife or a detail sander, one way or the other. I gotta calibrate myself first, see how thick that is. How much can I take away? Okay, I probably need to, I can probably get rid of almost all of the thickness of that tenon, but I'll leave a little bit there as a foot. Just a little bit.
Kim, do you not use a little sponge or something to go in between the two pieces?
You can, but I'll tell you what, this piece is pretty dry, so it's not going to dent like a green piece would. But to answer your question, absolutely. If this was green, or if I was really trying to be very ginger with it, I would either use. Usually, actually, what I've got is I've got a big piece of rubber that's like from a drain.
Yeah, it grips it a little bit.
And it just provides a little cushion, plus it gives a little grippiness to it. Sometimes you got to play around with getting it to be fairly. Well, that looks real good. Okay. Now, I don't want to push too hard, because as I start thinning out this area down here, if you're pushing too hard on the center, you could literally crack it. So it's a real compromise. The best thing to do, get it enough that it holds it against it, and then just keep your tools nice and sharp. Okay, to take away this last little bit here. This is the time to take your time and not get in a hurry. Okay? And I'll do anything to extend my turning time, because I like it. You know, it's not just the outcome. I like the process. Okay. I got a little too aggressive, and it actually rotated on that chuck, so just gotta slow it down a little bit. Okay, I can sand that away there, and if we were inclined to want to do some sanding right now, I would sand that right now to blend in some of that area. But you know, as long as, I'll tell you, as long as you don't have tear out, you can do an awful lot with just a little bit of hand sanding. Biggest thing is while it's still in the lathe, make sure you really minimize tear out, because tear out, you'll think, oh, I can just take a little 80 grit or 120 grit, and a lot of times, you know, you'll be fighting it once your hands are wore out from sanding. And all I'm going to do here, I'm not going to do a foot. I kind of changed my mind when I started looking at the shape of it, but I'm just going to leave a little bit of a concave depression in there so that it sits solidly on the ground. If this were green, it would actually be kind of nice because you leave a foot on it and then you just carve it away and leave 3 little pedestals for it to sit on. And that way, no matter how badly it warps, it always sits flat. Check for tear out before I, yeah, a little tiny bit there. See if I can get rid of that or not. I'm getting pretty thin down there, I can tell, because I can actually see through this bug hole to the other side, and it looks like I've got about 1/8 of an inch right here. Oh, that's pretty good. Good?
Yeah.
Everybody happy with that? Just change it to a spindle gouge to get in there a little bit tighter. Where the front row is getting a little bit edgy. All right. Oh, I still got 1/8 of an inch to go. Wobbling on me. Okay, good time to stop.
Sanding, huh?
Yeah.
No, sanding, that's so, you know, I don't know,
Just don't do that.
last year.
What do you finish it off with?
It could be anything. Obviously, I'll do a lot of sanding on all of the areas below the bark, which means that I can't sand all the way up to the top. All right, I'll sand. Well, I'll use hand sanding with a foam back pad. when it's on the lathe. I have power sanded pieces like that. I don't power sand that much anymore, but especially if it were green, I like to wait until the pieces dried out a little bit more to do my final sanding, and then power sanding comes into play. But so you know, sand through the different grits, and then you know, however you want to finish it. I mean, antique oil, Danish oil, shellac, lacquer, poly, whatever you know, whatever. You know,
use something like triple E, like you use on
in
the
buffet.
pens.
Not so much with something like that, especially a natural edge piece. You got to be careful buffing because it's real easy to just tear the natural stuff off. I have used triple E and so forth on natural edge pieces, but I don't know. I'm not as big into trying to get a real high gloss with those kind of pieces. Actually, I would probably just take either Danish oil or antique oil, a couple coats, and that would be it. And that way it would just look like a nice you know, natural piece, kind of like this. This is probably Danish oil only. This is, that's probably just Danish oil. It's just that apple just takes a
Wipe
finish.
it on, you don't wipe it or anything like
No,
that.
no, just wipe it on, get rid of the excess.
Till that thing fell off of green, it's wet.
Does it feel wet still?
For it to have been cut a year and a half ago,
Yeah,
where you been keeping it?
in a covered shed. That's outside. I mean, it's not exposed to the elements, but it's, you know, rain doesn't get on it.
Right. You have everything on it to keep the moisture in though. You had extra length, right?
Yeah, well, not that much.
But you had some.
Little bit,
You had the bark
little bit.
going, so it's gonna keep some of the water. It would take 4 years for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, an inch per, or a year per inch.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, it was. That's
Still
kinda
somewhat
nice.
green.
It's not gonna work a lot, but
Right.
it's hard to say it's wood. It's gonna do what it wants to do. But, yeah, it's a good apple's nice.
If it warps, you won't know the difference. That's the way Tim made it.
That's right.
It's nice for a natural edge.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Mhm.
Okay.
Good job. Good job.
That was very good.
Thanks so much.